you're prepping for like a huge discussion on disaster preparedness.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, you come to the right place because we are diving deep into the LA wildfires from January 2025.
Okay.
And we've got it all. We've got the news updates, firsthand accounts, expert opinions, social media reactions.
Wow.
The whole shebang.
Yeah.
Our mission to like equip you with the knowledge to not only understand what happened,
Right.
but the why behind it all.
It's so fascinating how these fires almost act like a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
They bring a whole host of issues into really sharp focus.
Okay.
Climate change, political dynamics.
Right.
Even how we consume information in a crisis.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this then.
Yeah.
So Fox News Live updates paint a stark picture, right? 5 separate fires with names like Palisades, Eaton, ripped through LA County. Over 27,000 acres burned.
Wow.
I mean, picture that, an area bigger than some entire cities just gone. Over 10,000 homes and businesses destroyed, and a mind-boggling 153,000 people evacuated.
It's almost impossible to even wrap your head around those numbers.
It is.
Yeah.
It's really hard to grasp.
Truly staggering.
Yeah.
Imagine a population the size of a small city suddenly displaced.
Yeah.
And tragically, the human cost is very real.
Yeah.
11 confirmed deaths, but that number is expected to rise.
Yeah, those numbers are heavy, no doubt about it. But sometimes it's the personal stories that hit you the hardest.
Absolutely.
And we have a couple here.
Yeah.
Take 6-year-old Henry from Altadena.
Oh, wow.
This little guy fled his home with only pieces of his parents' bikes clutched in his hands.
Oh my gosh.
I can't even imagine the terror he must have felt.
It's a gut punch.
It is.
Events like this can leave deep psychological scars, especially on children.
Right.
Their sense of security has just shattered their home, their routine, their whole world upended in an instant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's the story of Victor Shaw, 66 years old, found with a hose in hand, trying to save his family home.
Oh, wow.
He died a hero, but it's such a heartbreaking loss.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what drives people to risk their lives like that.
It's a primal instinct to protect what's yours, even when facing overwhelming danger.
Yeah.
We see it time and time again in disasters.
Right.
People driven by this deep, almost desperate need to defend their property, their memories, their sense of place.
Speaking of places, even celebrities weren't immune to these fires.
Right.
This Is Us. Star Milo Ventimiglia lost his home just days before his wife was due to give birth.
Oh, wow.
And ironically, his character on the show died in a house fire.
It's an eerie case of life mirroring art, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it makes you think, do we use fiction to process real-life disasters? Do we search for understanding, comfort, even control by relating to characters and stories we've seen on screen?
Yeah, food for thought for sure.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit, because these fires also stirred up a lot of controversy.
Right.
And finger-pointing. Governor Newsom inviting President-elect Trump to tour the damage, despite their past clashes over California's wildfire management, is a prime example.
Yeah, it begs the question, can political rivals set aside their differences in times of crisis?
Yeah.
Or will these fires just become another battleground for partisan politics?
Right. And then there's President Biden's fire away joke during a briefing.
Oh, yikes. Yeah.
Some called it insensitive, considering the widespread devastation.
It really highlights the tightrope walk that public figures face when communicating during a crisis.
Right.
Every word, every gesture is under a microscope.
Yeah.
And even a well-intentioned attempt at humor can backfire spectacularly.
Totally. Talk about pressure. But adding fuel to this already raging fire is the LA fire chief's statement.
Oh.
The city, he claims, failed the department with budget cuts. This has everyone asking, are we truly prepared for these kinds of disasters?
It's a crucial question.
It is.
It forces us to look at national trends in emergency service funding.
Yeah.
Are we adequately investing in prevention and response?
Right.
Or are we setting ourselves up for more devastation down the line?
It's a wake-up call for sure.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to this disaster.
Okay.
A modern one. The wildfire of misinformation spreading online.
Right.
Governor Newsom even used the phrase hurricane-force winds of misinformation to describe it.
That's a powerful image, and it highlights just how fast and wide misinformation can spread.
Yep.
It can move faster than the actual fire itself,
Right.
which can have dangerous consequences during a crisis
Yeah.
when people are already on edge searching for reliable information.
Right. Remember those false evacuation alerts that caused chaos during the fires? It makes you realize just how fragile our emergency alert systems can be.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It underscores the importance of having reliable information channels in this digital age. How do we sift through the noise and find trustworthy sources, especially during emergencies?
Okay, so we've got the raw numbers,
Yeah.
the heart-wrenching personal stories, the political fallout.
Great.
But now let's delve into the long-term consequences of these fires, the ripple effects that will continue to be felt long after the flames are extinguished.
Yeah, that's where the true scope of this disaster starts to come into focus.
Okay.
We're talking about economic fallout, social disruption, and a long, difficult road to recovery.
Speaking of economic impact, JP Morgan has estimated a whopping $20 billion in insured losses.
Wow.
That could make these fires the most expensive in California's history.
It's a massive blow to the insurance industry.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about the future.
Right.
Will we see skyrocketing insurance premiums?
Yeah.
Stricter requirements for getting coverage, especially in high-risk areas? How will this affect the real estate market in fire-prone zones?
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
With financial consequences rippling outward, and as if the fires themselves weren't enough. There are reports of looting and a surge in demand for private security firms.
It's a sad reality that in the wake of disasters, there can be a breakdown in social order.
Right.
Fear and desperation can lead to crime, making security a top concern for many.
Right.
But it raises ethical questions, too.
Yeah.
Who can afford private protection?
Right.
How are resources allocated in these chaotic situations?
Complex issues, for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's the political angle. Florida Governor DeSantis is calling for media scrutiny of California's leadership,
Okay.
comparing it to how Republican leaders are treated during crises.
This speaks to the tendency for disaster response to become politicized. Each side wants to score points or deflect blame,
Right.
which often overshadows the real work of finding solutions.
Yeah.
What's needed is a clear-eyed, nonpartisan analysis of what went wrong, what worked, and how we can improve future responses.
We need to learn from our mistakes and work together to build more resilient communities. But amidst all the politics and economics, it's easy to lose sight of the human element.
Right.
Thousands of people have lost their homes, their livelihoods, their sense of security.
Yeah.
Their stories are what matter most.
Absolutely. It's crucial to remember that behind the statistics and the political maneuvering are real people whose lives have been shattered.
Yeah.
Their experiences need to be heard.
Right.
And their needs should be our priority as we move forward.
And those stories, those experiences are exactly what we'll be diving into next.
Okay.
Stay with us as we explore the human cost of these fires and the ongoing efforts to rebuild and recover.
Sounds good. Welcome back as we dig deeper into these LA wildfires. I think it's important to shift our focus from the big picture to the individual stories.
Yeah.
You know, the human experiences of those who lived through this disaster.
You're right. We talked about Little Henry and Victor Shaw, but their stories are just two among thousands. These fires touch so many lives in such profound ways.
Exactly. Take Edwin Castro, for instance. He won that record-breaking $2.04 billion Powerball back in 2022.
Right.
But even his unimaginable wealth couldn't shield him from the flames.
Wow.
The Palisades fire took his multi-million-dollar Malibu home.
Wow. That really drives home the point that disasters don't discriminate.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much money you have, tragedy can still strike.
Exactly. And what's lost goes far beyond just the dollar value of a house.
Right.
It's the irreplaceable things, you know, family photos, heirlooms, those everyday objects that held special meaning.
Yeah.
It's the loss of memories and that feeling of safety and security in your own home.
Absolutely. And this impact rippled through Hollywood as well.
Yeah.
Several celebrities like Anna Faris, Billy Crystal, and Sandra Lee lost their homes in these fires.
It's a reminder that even those we see as larger-than-life figures face the same struggles, the same anxieties, the same daunting task of rebuilding their lives after a disaster.
It's a shared trauma, a collective grief that binds the community together.
Indeed. And out of this shared pain, we often see incredible acts of support and solidarity.
Yeah. Look at Steve Guttenberg.
Oh, yeah.
He was out there helping people move cars out of the fire's path.
Wow.
He even talked about how this experience highlighted the importance of community, of leaning on each other in times of need.
Yeah, he called the wildfires the great equalizer, pointing out that material possessions seem to lose their significance when faced with such devastation.
It's a profound observation.
Yeah.
It makes you reflect on what truly matters in life. Human connection, compassion, and the resilience of the human spirit.
It's also a powerful reminder of the courage and dedication of our first responders.
Oh, absolutely.
We often hear about the dangers firefighters face on the ground, but what about the air crews battling those blazes from above?
They face incredible risks as well. Retired Coast Guard helicopter commander John Mixon talked about the challenges of flying in those conditions, low altitude, strong winds, thick smoke, all while trying to avoid terrain, other aircraft, and even power lines.
Sounds incredibly intense. It requires nerves of steel and an unwavering dedication to protecting others.
Yeah.
Those men and women are true heroes, putting their lives on the line for the sake of their community.
Absolutely. But along with the stories of heroism and loss, we also hear voices of anger and frustration.
Of course, given the scale of this disaster, it's understandable that people are questioning the preparedness and response efforts.
Right.
Remember that tense encounter between Governor Newsom and Rachel Darvish?
Oh, yeah.
Her daughter's school was destroyed in the fires, and she didn't hold back in expressing her anger and frustration.
Yeah, it was a raw, emotional moment.
Yeah.
That captured the feelings of many who feel let down, who are asking tough questions about why things weren't done differently.
Right.
She questioned the lack of water pressure in fire hydrants, the preparedness efforts, and whether more could have been done to prevent this level of devastation.
Her confrontation highlights the need for accountability and transparency. People deserve answers.
Yeah.
And those in positions of authority need to be held responsible for ensuring the safety and well-being of their communities.
And this accountability goes beyond the immediate response. It extends to the long-term recovery efforts, how resources are allocated, and the measures taken to prevent future disasters.
Absolutely. It's about learning from what happened, identifying the systemic failures that may have contributed to the severity of this disaster, and making changes to ensure a more effective and equitable response in the future.
So as we move forward, it's clear that we need to listen to those who have been directly impacted by these fires.
Yeah.
Their experiences, their losses, their resilience. These should guide our understanding and inform our actions as we work towards building more resilient communities.
You're right. By listening to those who have lived through this tragedy, we gain invaluable insights into the human cost of disaster, the challenges of recovery, and the importance of collective action in creating a safer and more sustainable future.
And speaking of collective action, we've seen some incredible displays of generosity and community spirit. Neighbors helping neighbors evacuate businesses, offering free meals to first responders, organizations mobilizing to provide shelter and supplies. It's truly inspiring.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Even in the face of unimaginable hardship, people find ways to support each other, to offer compassion and cooperation.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's light to be found in the strength of the human spirit and the bonds of community.
But even with all this support, the road to recovery is long and arduous.
Right.
Thousands are still displaced, struggling to cope with the loss of their homes, their belongings, and in some cases, their loved ones.
Yeah.
It's hard to fathom the emotional and psychological toll this takes on people.
It's important to acknowledge that trauma,
Yeah.
rebuilding lives and businesses will be challenging, and there's a critical need for ongoing support for those who have been so deeply affected.
The scars of this disaster run deep. The process of healing, both individually and collectively, will take time, resources, and a sustained commitment from the community and its leaders.
But as history has shown us time and again, communities have an incredible capacity to rebuild, to adapt, and to emerge from adversity stronger than before.
And this resilience often comes from shared experiences, a collective determination to overcome obstacles, and a deep understanding of the importance of unity and cooperation.
These qualities will be essential in the months and years to come as Los Angeles County grapples with the aftermath of these fires and charts a path toward a brighter future.
But alongside the stories of resilience, we also need to acknowledge the vulnerabilities this disaster exposed.
Right.
The issues with water pressure and fire hydrants, the spread of misinformation, the challenges of coordinating relief efforts. These all point to areas where we need to improve.
Exactly. The lessons learned from this disaster are crucial.
Yeah.
By analyzing what went wrong, what worked well, and what could have been done differently, we can develop more effective strategies for preventing and responding to future disasters.
It's about creating a culture of preparedness. investing in resilient infrastructure, and fostering a strong sense of community that can come together when disaster strikes.
And it's about recognizing that disasters aren't isolated events.
Right.
They're often symptoms of larger systemic issues like climate change, social inequality, and a decline in trust in institutions.
Addressing those root causes will be key in mitigating the impact of future disasters and building a more sustainable and equitable future for everyone.
It's a challenging but essential task.
Yeah.
It requires a collective effort from individuals, communities, governments, and organizations across all sectors.
And it requires a willingness to learn from the past, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to work together to create a future where communities are better equipped to face the challenges of an increasingly unpredictable world.
But it's not just about systemic changes.
Right.
Personal responsibility plays a huge role, too.
You're right. We can all take steps to prepare for disasters, whether it's creating a family emergency plan, putting together a disaster preparedness kit, or just staying informed about potential hazards in our area.
It's about empowering ourselves with knowledge, resources, and a sense of agency. That way, we're better prepared to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities when disaster strikes.
And it's about understanding that disaster preparedness isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing process that requires us to stay vigilant and adapt to changing circumstances.
It's a journey we embark on together, recognizing that our individual actions combined with collective efforts can make a real difference in minimizing the impact of future disasters.
So as we continue to explore the aftermath of these fires and the lessons they hold, it's crucial to remember that while the road ahead will be challenging, it also presents an opportunity for growth innovation and a renewed commitment to building more resilient communities.
It's a chance to transform tragedy into a catalyst for positive change, to learn from our mistakes, and to work together to create a future where communities are better prepared to face the challenges that lie ahead.
Well said. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's shift our focus to the rebuilding phase.
Okay.
We've seen the devastation, the loss, the outpouring of support. But now comes the hard part, putting the pieces back together.
Rebuilding isn't just about bricks and mortar.
Right.
It's about restoring livelihoods and a sense of community. It's a complex process filled with challenges navigating insurance claims, securing permits, finding contractors, and coping with the emotional weight of starting over.
And it's a process that can take months, even years. There will be setbacks, frustrations, moments of despair, but there will also be triumphs, acts of resilience, and a renewed sense of hope as communities gradually come back to life.
And it's during this rebuilding phase that the importance of community support, government assistance, and a shared spirit of determination become even more apparent.
It's about coming together, sharing resources and knowledge, offering encouragement, and recognizing that no one has to face this journey alone.
That's when the true strength of a community shines through in its ability to support its members in times of need and to rebuild not just structures, but also lives, relationships, and a shared sense of belonging.
That's beautifully put. But this rebuilding process also begs the question, how can we build back better?
Yeah.
How do we incorporate the lessons learned from this disaster to create more resilient communities?
That's a vital question. It's about going beyond simply restoring what was lost and seizing this opportunity to address underlying vulnerabilities. It's about creating communities that are better equipped to withstand future challenges.
This could involve implementing stricter building codes, investing in fire-resistant materials, improving early warning systems, and promoting community-based disaster preparedness initiatives.
It's about taking a holistic approach to rebuilding, recognizing that resilience isn't just about physical structures. It's also about social cohesion, economic vitality, and environmental sustainability.
And it's about ensuring that the rebuilding process is equitable, addressing the needs of all community members, especially those who are most vulnerable and might face additional barriers to recovery.
So as we move forward, it's crucial to see this rebuilding phase not simply as a task to be completed, but as a chance to create more resilient, sustainable, and equitable communities.
Right.
Communities that are better prepared to face the challenges of an increasingly uncertain future.
A future where the lessons learned from these LA wildfires aren't just remembered, but are translated into concrete actions that protect livelihoods and the well-being of communities for generations to come.
But this rebuilding process also presents ethical considerations about resource allocation, environmental impact, and finding the balance between individual property rights and community well-being.
That raises some really important questions.
Yeah.
How do we ensure fairness in distributing aid and rebuilding resources?
Yeah.
How do we minimize the environmental impact of reconstruction? And how do we balance individual property rights with the collective good of the community?
These are complex issues that require careful thought and a commitment to finding solutions that are both just and sustainable.
It's about having open and honest conversations with everyone involved, recognizing that there will be different viewpoints and understanding that compromise and collaboration are essential in reaching equitable outcomes.
And it's about recognizing that the rebuilding process is not just a technical challenge, but a social and ethical one as well.
Right.
It demands a deep understanding of the community's needs, values, and aspirations.
It's about rebuilding not just structures, but also trust relationships and a shared sense of purpose that can guide the community towards a more resilient and equitable future.
That's a great point. But as we wrap up this segment, it's important to remember that the recovery process doesn't end when the rebuilding is done.
You're right, the scars of this disaster, both physical and emotional, will likely linger long after homes and businesses have been rebuilt.
The trauma experienced by those who lost loved ones, homes, and livelihoods will require ongoing support and resources.
Yeah.
Healing takes time.
And the community as a whole will need to come to terms with this shared experience.
Right.
Rebuilding a sense of normalcy and security will be an ongoing process.
This process of healing and renewal takes patience a continued commitment to fostering a culture of support, resilience, and hope.
It's about understanding that the journey back to wholeness isn't always straightforward. There will be ups and downs, setbacks, and triumphs along the way.
But by embracing this journey together, by sharing our stories, supporting each other, and learning from the past, we can emerge from this disaster stronger, more connected, and better equipped to face the challenges that lie ahead.
And as we move forward, we need to remember that the LA wildfires aren't just a local event. They're a stark reminder of the growing threat of disasters in this era of climate change and environmental degradation.
These fires are a wake-up call, urging us to take action to mitigate the risks of future disasters, to invest in resilient infrastructure, and to work together to create a more sustainable and equitable future for all.
It's a call to action that demands our attention, our commitment, and our collective effort if we want to create a world where communities are better prepared to face the challenges of an increasingly unpredictable future.
And it's a call to recognize that disaster preparedness isn't just the responsibility of governments and organizations.
Right.
It's a shared responsibility that requires the active participation of each and every one of us.
It's about empowering ourselves with knowledge, resources, and a sense of agency so that we can be better prepared to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities when disaster strikes.
It's about recognizing that resilience isn't just about bouncing back from adversity, but about building forward, creating a future where communities are stronger, more adaptable, and better equipped to face the challenges of a complex world.
And it's a future that we can create together by learning from the past, embracing innovation, and working collaboratively to build a world where communities thrive even in the face of adversity.
Well said. But as we transition to the final part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question to consider.
I'm all ears. What's on your mind?
Given everything we've learned about the LA wildfires, the scale of the devastation, the human stories, the challenges of response and recovery, what steps would you take to improve disaster preparedness on a personal or community level?
That's a great question to ponder. It's a call to action for each of us to think about how we can contribute to creating a safer and more resilient future.
We'll delve into some potential answers and explore additional resources in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the LA wildfires. We've covered a lot of ground, from the heartbreaking stories of loss to the inspiring displays of resilience. But now let's shift our focus to, you remember that question we left you with, given everything we've learned. What steps would you take to improve disaster preparedness, either for yourself or your community?
It's a question that deserves serious thought, and the answer isn't as simple as just stocking up on supplies. It's about a shift in mindset.
You're right. It's about recognizing that disasters, while hopefully rare, are a possibility. And that taking proactive steps can make a world of difference in reducing our vulnerability.
Exactly. It's moving from that "it won't happen to me" mentality to a more proactive "what if it does" approach. That's where true preparedness begins.
So where do we even start? Thinking about disaster preparedness can feel overwhelming, especially with so much information flying around.
I hear you. It can feel daunting. But let's break it down into manageable steps. First, take stock of your personal risks. What are the most likely disasters in your area? Wildfires, earthquakes, floods. Once you know what you're up against, you can tailor your plan accordingly.
Okay, that makes sense. Identify the risks. Check what's next.
Make a plan. It doesn't need to be complicated. A simple document outlining evacuation routes, meeting points for your family, and emergency contact information can be a lifesaver.
And let's not forget about that disaster preparedness kit. It's amazing how many people wait until the last minute and then realize they're missing essential items.
You're preaching to the choir. A well-stocked kit should include water, non-perishable food, a first aid kit, any necessary medications, flashlights, batteries, a whistle, a multi-tool, and copies of important documents. Think of it as peace of mind packed into a backpack.
I love that peace of mind in a backpack. It's so true. But what about the emotional and psychological aspects of disaster preparedness?
Yeah.
We've seen firsthand how traumatic these events can be.
That's a crucial aspect that often gets overlooked. Disaster preparedness isn't just about physical safety. It's about mental and emotional resilience, too. Talking to your family about potential scenarios, addressing fears and anxieties head-on, and developing coping mechanisms can make a huge difference in how you navigate a crisis.
It's about building that inner strength, knowing you have the tools and resources to cope even when things get tough.
Exactly. And that leads us to another critical piece of the puzzle. Community preparedness disasters often highlight just how interconnected our lives are. We rely on our neighbors, local businesses, community organizations, and first responders. Building strong community networks before disaster strikes is a game changer.
It's about knowing your neighbors, getting involved in community events, volunteering, and supporting initiatives that strengthen those bonds.
And it's about advocating for policies that prioritize disaster preparedness and mitigation. We need to hold our elected officials accountable for investing in resilient infrastructure, supporting first responders, and creating a culture of preparedness at every level.
We've got individual preparedness, community preparedness, and then there's that whole information landscape, which we touched on earlier. Misinformation spreads like wildfire, pun intended, and knowing where to find accurate information during a crisis is vital.
Absolutely. Identify trusted sources of information before disaster strikes. FEMA. The Red Cross, local government websites, and reputable news organizations are great places to start. Be wary of information circulating on social media, especially from unverified sources.
So to sum it up, we've got personal preparedness, assessing your risks, making a plan, building that kit, and cultivating emotional resilience. Then there's community preparedness, building those support networks, and advocating for policies that prioritize safety, and finally navigating the information landscape, knowing who to trust before you need them.
That's a great breakdown. And remember, preparedness is a journey, not a destination. It's about continually learning, adapting, and refining our approach as new information and technologies become available.
And it's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're part of a larger ecosystem. And our individual actions, combined with collective efforts, can create a ripple effect that makes our communities safer and more resilient.
Well said. We've explored a lot in this deep dive. The heart-wrenching stories, the incredible acts of courage and compassion, the complex questions around preparedness and recovery.
It's been a heavy but incredibly important conversation, and I hope our listeners are walking away not just with a deeper understanding of the LA wildfires, but also with a renewed sense of urgency about the importance of disaster preparedness.
We encourage you to explore those resources we've mentioned, to start conversations about disaster preparedness with your families and communities, and to take action to build a safer, more resilient future for everyone.
Because as we've seen, disasters can strike anytime, anywhere. But by working together, learning from the past, and embracing a spirit of preparedness and resilience, we can create communities that are ready to face the challenges ahead and emerge from adversity stronger than ever before.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Stay safe, stay informed.
And